Thanks, Kristen. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, council, staff, delegates, and residents to the regular council meeting for Tuesday, May the 19th, 2026, and we are being streamed live. I'll call the meeting to order with the land acknowledgement. We are meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Huron, Wendat, Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We honor their cultures and celebrate their commitment to this land. We would also like to acknowledge the Mohawk and Algonquin nations whose traditional and unceded territory we are gathered upon today. Hastings County is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. First item on the agenda is the recommendation that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmor Lake for Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 be approved as presented. And I have a mover and a seconder. Mike, second Eric. Any comments or discussions on that agenda? Being none, all in favor? It's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Being none. Next is the mayor's report. May the 5th, I presided over the regular planning meeting and council meeting. May the 7th, I met with CAO Connolly and Councillor Derry to discuss operational issues. May the 9th, I attended the open mic event sponsored by the Lions Club. The event is scheduled for the second Sunday of the month. This was the last event until the fall. We have some very talented people in our community and the music was great. Also, since it was Mother's Day, every lady received a long-stemmed red rose. Many couples took advantage of the good music and danced. And thank you again to the Lions Club for providing this community event. May the 12th, I chaired the Personnel Committee meeting. At 1 o'clock that day, I met with the Central Hastings Transit Committee in NAIDOC. Discussion regarding levels of service and route scheduling and identifying service needs, that is medical appointments, transportation, school and work, and of course, funding. There was also a suggestion that scheduling and routes may be planned to accommodate food bank hours. Recognition that services may be extended to Deloro to serve residents, particularly if in the new apartment building was necessary. May the 15th, I attended the installation of a new bridge in Queensboro at the invitation of the Mayor of Tweed and CAO Ron Diskey. The company in charge of the construction and installation is Northern Mat and Bridge. The bridge consisted of 3 spans approximately 60 feet long and were leveled into place by a huge crane. I spoke to their project manager, Mr. Lee, to determine if this may be an option for bridge needs in Marmor Lake. He advised that this company does the complete project planning, design, engineering, construction, and installation. He will be contacting us in the near future to discuss some new design they are working on with longer spans, which may be an advantage for such bridges as the Shannock Bridge. And May 19th, this morning, I attended the regular Hastings County Planning and Development and Finance, Property and Personnel Committee meetings in Belleville. And this is the regular council meeting for Marmor and Lake. Thank you. Next, there are no public meetings. Next is delegations. Scott Saunders, estimator for Drain Brothers Excavating. Is Scott here? Welcome, Scott. Just take a seat and please remember to turn on the microphone.
And with me is Hillary Murphy. She's the owner of the property on Bowen Island. Okay. So I am estimator project manager for Drain Brothers. And we have made a proposal to council that we temporarily use the end of Booster Park Road. That is the current road allowance to construct a temporary launch that will allow our barge to approach that piece of land The property area that we're needing would be approximately 20 feet wide. And it's 30 feet long from the brow of the hill to where the water was when I measured it. It's all flat rock at the bottom and kind of like road gravel and stuff at the top, probably from snow plowing and things like that.
Scott, could I ask you just to pull the microphone a little closer to you?
Closer, yep.
This room is hard to hear sometimes.
Okay,
Thanks.
how's that?
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Anyway, I have been in touch with Pro Valley Conservation was my first step. And everything that I was asking of them was okay. And I would obviously need to put a permit in if things are a go, but as of yet, it's basically just been a report of our meeting, the things that they would like, a planting program, stuff to remediate the land after we are done. As it's only a temporary boat launch, it would go in as soon as we're allowed, if we're allowed. And we're anticipating that by fall, the boat launch would be removed and we would remediate it back to a better state of affairs than it is right now, which is mostly dead trees and scrubby brush. We have no problem with any of that so far. As far as launching of the barge goes, it requires a crane and we need a special permit to move the barge. That has all been considered logistically, and our preference is the municipal launch on the Cordova Road. Our only caveat, I guess I'd say for that part is that on the day that we are moving the barge, if it all goes in play, we need to barricade that parking lot for the duration of the time that the crane is there. Because the other day when I was there, a lady stopped to walk her dog on the trail. If there's one car in that little parking lot, there's no room for a crane to put a barge in the river. I call it the river. I guess that's what it is, but it's a little meandering piece that gets us back out into the east side of the lake. Okay. My proposal to launch the barge there, although it is a long, lazy, slow ride down the river to get back into the lake that is at the opposite end of where we need to be, is that we don't have to cut down a forest of trees down the Booster Park fence line of the actual park, and the whole municipal right of way would not have to be cleared. It would just be the section that's 20 feet wide. What else? We would be blocking off, barricading that boat launch every day of the week so that it can't be used as just a public access point for anybody. We obviously can't stop foot traffic. So if somebody wanted to walk down that ramp and jump in the water, I guess I can't do anything about that, but we would certainly be able to restrict anybody from putting boats, sea-doos, anything that has to come on a trailer into that section of the lake. Typically, our path forward is the barge stays out at the person's island that we would be working for on the weekends, and then it's back and forth during the weeks. It's a very intermittent thing on our part. The barge is put into action when either equipment, aggregate, or building supplies need to be carried to and from the lake. And the barge has no motor, makes no noise, but there is a little tugboat that pushes it around. And that is what makes the noise. And as far as what happens on land, the barge can come in. It has 14-foot ramps that drop. And so the barge is 14 feet out from the water. The barge ramps come down, and then a skid steer or an excavator can walk on the ramps to get up onto the barge and have it pushed back out onto the island. The location is a good one for us in the sense that it's close to Bowen and we don't have a huge amount of travel. The water looks to be in good shape as far as elevation goes, depth of the water, and it just kind of fits the bill on what we were looking and needing in order to make Hillary's building dreams come true.
Thank you. That's all? Did you have anything more?
I think so. I mean, I have lots of particulars, but nobody probably cares about what kind of gravel I'm gonna put in and that kind of stuff. But if anybody does, I can certainly answer any questions.
Thank you. Go
Yes.
ahead, Eric.
Thank you. So, thank you for coming forward to give a little bit more detail. This is a concerning project, I think, for the municipality and a lot of neighboring residents close by. I've heard from several people on this, so I have some questions, for you on this matter. So, length of time needed, you had said, this would continue to the fall. Do you have kind of a deadline that you're working towards when the project would be complete and remediation would be complete?
So the straight answer would be, I do not have a definite date. But if building goes well, which we have nothing to do with the building process, we're just going to bring materials over to the island when required. If the buildings of the home stays on track, then we're the last man out. I mean, everybody comes back off the island and we would dig out the ramp and remediate at that time.
Okay. As far as use of Meg's Landing, our municipal boat launch on Cordova Road, can you get into a bit more detail? The crane would be parked in the parking lot and its arm is long enough to suspend
Yes,
over the docks?
yes,
And the boat launch that would be there to drop it in?
yes.
Okay, so you wouldn't be using the boat launch itself?
No, absolutely not.
That is a
No,
concern
it will be
because that's
picked up
under,
off the pavement and put right into the water.
okay. Now the space that you're asking about, that's a pretty awkward space, because, you know, it's at the bottom of a hill. There's residential properties on one side and a campground on the other side. It's a very short strip of road. So can you talk to me at all about logistics, how it will work when you have large trucks, dump trucks with material, floats carrying equipment? How do you foresee turning around there, not impeding the residential traffic, not impeding the campsite, blocking off residents that live to one side of that road?
Yep. So as far as the logistics of the dump trucks go, bringing aggregates, they would be turned around at the very latest at the mouth of Booster Park, if not up the hill. Truck drivers generally always like to back into places rather than get stranded nose in.
Yeah.
So that would be the case for them. The dump site would be the brow of the hill where the asphalt runs out and the gravel starts.
Okay.
That would be where the dump site would be. The dump is short and sweet, and a skid steer would then load the aggregate onto the barge to be taken to the island.
So how can you mitigate the noise that would be created from those large trucks backing up that have reverse indicators?
Yeah.
You know, beeping there and equipment, diesel equipment moving around. What can be done to mitigate the noise and disruption that traffic there would cause? Because again, you have residents on one side and potentially campers all along the fence line on the other side.
Yep. Mitigating the noise. We could certainly pick whether it be first thing in the morning, you know, whether it be give us an hour, give us 2 hours, whatever the case be, and we could truck during that time. I'm open to suggestions on what people need for that part of it, but there is a slam of a tailgate. We can try to stop that by gently lowering down because we're bringing only aggregates. It's not like we would have topsoil and clay and stuff that sticks in the boxes of the truck, which is usually what it gets the big slam from the tailgate to empty the box. Equipment wise, there would be a skid steer and an excavator would come in at the beginning. The excavator goes to the island. The skid steer would travel with the barge when there is aggregate to move. If it's stuff for Hillary, like building supplies, then there wouldn't need to be a skid steer involved, other than if there were, 16-foot boards or stuff that are hard to manage by manhandling.
Yeah, okay. Now, I'm sure, I don't know if you've been there during peak times, on the east side of the fence that borders that road.
Yep.
That facility doesn't have a whole lot of parking. So that's, especially on weekends, extremely used parking. Even, you know, throughout the week, sometimes if people are going there to go swimming, they park along there. Do you see interaction or all the vehicles parking along that side space an impediment at all?
As long as they're parking on the east side of the fence, then they're off the road. We're absolutely fine because our dump trucks are just average width vehicles. But if people are, you know, dropping boat trailers and all sorts of silly stuff like that, then yes, we would be having a trouble with that. The last house on the west side of the road, we could barrel off our big orange barrels. We could barrel off a section just to keep that as our work area. It would mean that probably 2 to 3 cars wouldn't be able to park in there, but it would keep that area safe if there were any concerns that way. The barrels are movable and people move them all the time, but that's why we had proposed using large boulders or armor stone that are not going to be able to be moved once we're gone for the weekend, or, you know, if we're out on the island all day, we'll just put the boulders across and then nobody's launching boats.
And in terms of insurance and liability here, with so many campers and, you know, residents, kids around, are you offering any kind of insurance or liability guarantee to the municipality should there be an event?
Well, I would imagine we're under the same insurance laws as everybody else is. I mean, if little children like excavators and dump trucks and everything else, so you know, there is a little bit of ownership on the parents too, but certainly our guys are all professional and keep a heads up all the time.
Well, you will be using the roadway though, right? That's what you're proposing, using the roadway as a work site. If you're dumping material, that material, as you've just described, will be dumped on the road, basically, right?
Off
Okay,
right
right
at the end of the blacktop where the gravel starts and the scrub.
okay.
So I'm not sure how you want to label that area. If that area is still called the road, then yes, we're working on the road, but we're not going to be working on the blacktop because I'm sure as happy as Daryl would be to build you a new road, he'd probably rather not do that if he doesn't have to.
And with that insurance, talking about that damage to our municipal property, should the road get damaged or the fence get damaged, are you offering
we
to
would take
ensure
ownership
that
of that? Absolutely.
okay?
We always do and always have.
Okay. One of my concerns is the impact on the campsite itself, because sometimes people go there for a week and stay there, and those are prime spots on that corner.
Yeah.
Very desirable spots, always the first to get booked. Some families that have been going there for years and years and years. So them being unaware, booking a site, being totally unaware of being next to a construction site possibly throughout the week is a concern. And from a municipal perspective, the municipality relies on the revenues from those campsites. It's
Absolutely.
really important that
Absolutely.
that park be self-funded, and we're on our way, and we have many good reviews, and that park is turning around. So we have to make sure there's not a negative impact on that facility because of this permission that you're asking for. You've talked a little bit about how you block off, you're going to use large armor stone to block off the.
Yeah, that would be at that end of the blacktop, beginning of the gravel.
Okay.
Because that's what I am truly considering to be my work site, not the blacktop. The only thing the blacktop will be used for is to back a truck up to the end of the road.
Okay.
Outside of that, there should be no construction of any kind, no stockpiles, no nothing on the block.
It'll get transported.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't need a lot of money, and with a barge, we can't have a lot of material stockpiled ahead of us. Literally, the truck has to come, we load it and take it away.
Okay.
It's a very different process than it is when you're at a construction site in a town or something. Island work is kind of choice. It has to be done a certain way.
Okay. One of the requests of Crow Valley was for a tree replanting.
Yes.
Many of the trees there are not small trees. They are mature trees along that shoreline. The Crow Valley is inferring here that the trees be staked to prevent people from walking on them. I guess I have a concern that inference of putting in just basic saplings to replace mature trees. So, going forward in proposals, that's something I would like to see considered for sure, to try and reestablish it as close to existing as possible. Should you get permission to use this space, not just put some soil down and some saplings to cover up what's been cut.
No, the proposal from Crow Valley was, Kelsey put in 6 white cedars to be transplanted back into the space where there are 3 alive and 3 dead ones right now. And I have no problem with that. She calls for 8 to 10 foot cedars there. And then everything else she's called for is scrub. It's water loving plants, willows and dogwoods and things like that. So what they're looking for is those smaller plants to take root and stabilize that slope once it's put back in and topsoil.
Can you talk a little bit about removal of the aggregate that's going to be on the water's edge? You mentioned there's fabric that's going to go down to
Yep.
assist in that. Can you expand on that process?
We use a geosynthetic fabric that is almost bulletproof, very hard to cut with a razor knife. And we use that quite often on our shorelines because it makes cleanup very easy. We put the aggregate, so we would use a 15-foot roll, double lined in that because we have a 20-foot space. So there'd be a 10-foot middle that's double wrapped. We would put the aggregate on top of that. That's really all we need. We don't need compaction. We don't need anything special with the aggregate. It's just a clear stone put down so nothing gets into the water as far as silt or anything goes. And then at the end of it all, if you can picture rolling up a carpet with a mess on it, we would scrape off a lot of the top aggregate, and then that roll just gets rolled back into itself and put in a dump truck.
Hours of operation that you planned, that is open for discussion. When you would want to use this space in terms of what time during the day. This is not going to be on weekends. Is that clear?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're
Correct.
proposing?
Yes.
Okay.
As dedicated as our guys are, they don't do weekends. Really, at the end of the day, what we would be looking at is construction of the temporary launch would be a day to a day and a half to have the trees cut down. And when we're talking trees, there isn't a tree over probably 15 feet that would ever be cut down in that space that we need. It is the very scrubby center. I picked the center of the road because then we don't beat up the road when we get near the edges. So the center of the road, center of the right of way, and we go down both sides. There's a rock on the left and there's a dead tree on the right. So it's everything inside of that goes. Once those are out of the way, we will take the stumps and anything that is in the way, boulders possibly, move them out of the way. Then the plot goes down and the aggregate on top. That process will take a day, day and a half. That's the most racket we're going to make, is constructing that boat launch. Once the launch is in, then it's just us back and forth to the island as required. But the only thing that we have to do for Hillary at the start of this project is build the ramp, get some aggregate over to the island to construct a temporary road up to the top of the hill. And then we're not there anymore until basically we have a cottage to live in. And then we're going to come back and do the septic and get all those things done as far as finishing up the sequence of events.
Okay. Compensation wise, there's no mention in your plan here of compensation to the municipality for use of that road allowance or to offset the staff time that's involved in this, or Crow Valley's time. I understand there's permit applications that are collected throughout this process.
Yep.
And I'm not minimizing the investment in building here. I certainly appreciate your investment, and it's a gorgeous lake and an amazing place to live. So
Yep.
Certainly appreciate that. But to offset those costs, the municipality is financially very stretched. And being beside a campsite and residential properties, there's some risk there. Is that something, is compensation, some type of compensation, something that's on the table for use of this space?
You put it on the table, then I can take it to the boss. That's all I can tell you for that. I mean, there are no costs incurred to the municipality right now, other than if you're getting people that want to come and observe things or see what we're doing or anything like that from your town workers. But outside of that, there isn't anything that we're asking you to pay for. So if you're looking for compensation, you give me what that is and I'll take it to the boss.
Through the chair to John, staff is not here tonight. Have staff been, can you give a background on, have staff been consulted on this, or will there be a forthcoming staff report related to this request?
So through Chair to Councillor Dow, yes, and part of the early discussions that met Scott and one of the other gentlemen on site to discuss options. One of those options talked about opening up the road allowance, or even, thank you, or even the idea of using part of Booster Park, part of the transient sites, the overnight sites, as a looking at what after the work is done. Is this something that could be a benefit to Booster Park? Eliminated that as an option based on too much cost, the idea that it would be too expensive as a flow through cost to the developer. So road staff, Parks and Rec staff have all been part of the discussions with respect to if council is comfortable with putting this forward, they pass a bylaw. I would put together an access agreement. That access agreement would touch on many and more of the facts that you just talked about. It would talk about compensation, it would talk about liability, it would talk about insurance, it would talk about the details. Also, the idea that this is temporary in nature. So making it very crystal clear that this is not opening up the road allowance permanently. It's only time sensitive. We'd have to be mindful that we don't want to hit the fall and there still be things almost done. So some flexibility in there, but an access agreement would spell out all those things and more. The idea is if council is supportive of this, we would bring that report forward with all those details.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Go ahead, Mike.
I understand it. You're bringing in the aggregates and all that, but you also talked about lumber and that coming in. That won't be through Drain Brothers. So who do we coordinate with that? Because they're going to be big. I don't know what kind of house you're building, ma'am. Is it a log home or is it just a stud in the wall?
It is a log home. It's coming as one complete delivery from the supplier. So that includes the entire package for framing, the interior partitions, windows, doors, all of that. So it's palletized. It's not separate deliveries from lumber yards. There will be some of that. There are decks, a large deck that we have that would be stick framed, but all have that coordinated so that deliveries of materials are coming at the same time. My day job is I own a construction company, and so I recognize the coordination that's required to put these together and make sure that we're minimizing the number of trips back and forth and the disruption to the area.
Okay, so at the start, can you tell me what a typical week would be? Would you deliver aggregate one day and then not be back for 2 or 3 days until that's all used and spread and everything? And then back, say, Thursday with another 4 or 5 dump truck loads, or are you there every day, 8 hours a day?
Absolutely. Once we have a full-time job back on a couple of other lakes.
Yeah.
So we don't have the time to have a crew on Crow all summer long. So really, it's going to be construction of the ramp, which will be from land.
Right? Yeah.
Launching of the barge. The launching of the barge to come around to Bowen Island. And then it will come to rest at the proposed launch. But once we have the aggregate in for the ramp from lake to top of the island, other than us having to do a delivery for Hillary or one of her suppliers, Drain Brothers won't be there.
Okay, so who coordinates all the lumber and the logs and everything coming in? Not you then, it's you?
Yeah, it'll be through the two of us, yes.
Okay,
Like
okay,
she'll have to, because I look after the Drain Brothers guys,
right.
she's gonna look after her home.
Well, but I'm assuming seeing this area is gonna be blocked off with armor stone or whatever you use,
Yes,
Drain Brothers has to come back to move that armor stone to allow a log truck in there
you betcha.
to, okay, and how many trucks do you know? Or,
The main cottage delivery is one barge. tractor trailer, yes. Again, it's palletized, so everything has been packaged at the manufacturer and comes as one delivery. So as Scott said, if we have a larger delivery of something, we would need to coordinate with Drain. We do have a smaller barge that we currently have on the lake that's moored at the island that we've utilized for other projects to date that we can take smaller loads. It's rated up to 12,000 pounds. We just put our pontoon beside it and move it, and we've utilized Booster Park for loading of some materials to date.
Okay, so would the people be notified when this is gonna happen? So
We certainly
at the
could.
park, because
Oh, at the park, they're always notified, yes.
Yeah,
And
okay.
certainly if there are neighboring residents that would like to be notified of these activities, we can certainly plan for that in advance and provide notice as to when we're intending to have deliveries
that would
come
be
and,
good. Yeah,
yeah, that's not
so
an issue.
if you're only anticipating 1 or 2 tractor trailer loads of major material.
That's
And
correct.
then the rest would be smaller, but then you gotta come back to open up the ramp each time that she has a load come through.
Just for the larger deliveries, yeah.
Yeah, if we're gonna utilize the barge, then yes, we have to move the box.
So your other barge, a small barge, is it not gonna come into that same,
No,
no, it comes down.
no, it doesn't have the same draft that their barge has, so we don't need the same depth
Okay.
and organization. So to date, we've been on the lake, we're coming up on 3 years, I guess now. We've utilized that for some other small projects that we've done, some decks and things like that.
So once you guys, the majority of it is just gonna be the aggregate getting in there, getting the road in, and then you're gone, and then you'll be back.
And the cottage itself.
Yeah, later in and the big.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting the board across, yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll be back later in the fall for
The-
septic tank.
Yeah, if the build goes well, then we come back in for septic, bed and tanks. Then the project is done.
Right, hopefully there's no ice.
No, no, the barge.
It'll be done if there's ice.
Okay,
Go ahead, Ron.
Is on the barge.
Oh,
thank you.
go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I guess my question's for Scott here. My main concern about this project, I'm looking at it, is that roadway. Eric touched on it slightly.
Yep.
But I've been up there in the summertime and that road that youth are using is full. I'm wondering where those guys are gonna end up going, because I've been there, I've seen them parked on both sides of the road right up to where youth are gonna be working, so. I'm just wondering, have you made allowances for that, where all that traffic is, the overflow of traffic is gonna go, or where will you put them? Cause how far up that road are you gonna be using, not like say the Booster Park entrance, you be going that far?
No,
So how far?
other than backing a truck in, we'd have to go by that area, but certainly we're not gonna have any trucks or equipment parked in.
So there'd be room on that road for cars to park, the overflow parking.
Park on the east side, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that
don't
should
really
be no
park.
different than it is now. Where
Right,
that's
okay.
not anything that we would need.
That's good. So you talk about trucks backing up. What's your daily traffic plan?
Well, again,
Or when not daily, when you are there or when the logs are coming?
yeah,
And the reason I ask that, there's hundreds of kids running everywhere.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they just love trucks
They
and
do.
equipment, right? So if you don't have, and I'm not telling you what to do, if you don't have a guy spotting every truck coming in, looking for
our-
these little guys, they're gonna be under a wheel. So I wanna know from our perspective, we should be supplied a traffic plan every time you guys are on site, correct?
well, the traffic plan would really never change. I mean, it's always going to be the guys on the barge being the spotters and the dump truck backing up the aggregate, whatever it is that's coming.
But on a construction site, which is what this is.
Yep.
You have to have a traffic plan because you got,
Yep.
you're dealing with traffic, so I think we need to know what you're gonna do, signage, all the things, it's the flaggers, those are things we need to know. I think for our liability reasons, especially because of the proximity of the park, there's just, it's full in the
Mhm.
summertime, and there's,
Mhm.
like I said, kids and everybody's going everywhere, and I know what it's like backing trucks up, you can't see everywhere.
Yep.
So I would feel comfortable knowing what your plan is.
Well, I can certainly have our health and safety do up a traffic plan for you. There's not a problem with.
You know, like when you're doing a job on the highway, that's the first thing you do is traffic plan.
Yep.
That's
and-
all I'm
And if
asking.
you require that, we'll give you a traffic.
I think
plan.
it's a good idea because
Not a problem.
it gives us assurance that people are looked after, because.
Yep.
The other thing, so, Crow Valley's been mentioned a lot,
Yes,
but I'm surprised the MNR or DFO has not been brought into this at all.
for what reason?
Because you're in water. Crow
We're not-
Valley's a
we're not-
floodplain thing.
We're not doing anything in the water that affects DFO or MNR.
Because anytime we work near the water, DFO is right there.
We're not in the water.
Yeah, you are.
No, we're not. The barge will be in the barge will be in the water.
Yeah.
The
just
geocloth can go in every day of the week.
One.
I use it
one-
all winter long, every year.
One question here at a time, okay?
Anyway,
please?
just a question I had, because I know when I worked for the roads, DFO was
Yep.
up our ass all the time, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I don't
Just-
plan on being in the lake. The only thing that's gonna be in the lake is the barge.
So
And
how's it
because the
go-
ramp's offset 14 feet, the boat's not even coming to land. It's just the two ramps
There's no aggregate going in the water at all. So how does it get in there?
by skid steer, traveled by
So,
bucket.
the machine.
Yep. Taken from the land up the ramp onto the barge. And then the reverse when it gets to the island.
Okay, there's that. So your dump site you're talking about is closer to the lake than up the road, right?
It's right at the brow of the hill, the end of the blacktop, there's the brow of the hill, and then your 30-foot approach into the lake.
Okay,
So
yep.
that will all be aggregate temporarily,
Sure.
and there'll be no aggregate dumped on that aggregate. It will be up on the top, on the brow of the hill.
Okay. Dump site.
Are you done, Ron, or?
Yeah, my biggest concern is that parking lot, and the other thing is that the adjacent landowners feel comfortable with what's going on. That's a big concern too. I think they need to feel a comfort level moving forward that they feel good about the project. I mean, I think tonight is great, but I don't think we're there yet. Or I don't think there's enough information here for me to make a decision on it tonight. It's good information and all that, but that's just my feeling.
Right,
Mm.
respond to that?
Mike, did you, you were,
I just wanted to just respond.
oh,
To
okay,
that?
sure, go ahead.
So the one thing, it speaks to what you were talking about with the safety and the concern about the park being full and
I'm
kids.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry,
I'm
I'll
half
get it
deaf.
closer. That better? Just to the safety aspect and the timing of all of this, because it is an island property, it is clearly water access only. We do have a window within which we're able to do this work. And if we're looking to try to complete it in a season, time is of the essence for us. You know, from a safety perspective, we are much better to be able to mobilize and get the work complete with aggregate delivery, building delivery before the end of June, before school's out, before kids are running around and, you know, doing what kids do in the summertime on Crow Lake. So I just wanted to mention that as well, that time is of the essence for us. We do have our permits in place, and we do have the building fabricated, done, ready to go on the premise that we would be able to find a solution. Not that I'm saying that this has to be the solution, but it's a challenging lake. I grew up on Stony Lake, and everything is well, not everything, but a lot of it is water access. So facilities are there, and it's been a challenge to figure out, how do we do this? How do we do it safely? How do we do it and manage a build on a remote piece of property that you know, we're looking to enjoy with our family for many years to come. My husband's family grew up in this area on the lake, and, you know, we're hoping to be able to do this and have a place for our family for many years to come. I recognize that it is a disruption for a period of time for people in the area. We would like to minimize that, but we do have a limited window in which we are able to operate and make this a reality for us.
So saying that, when do you like to start? Like, don't say tomorrow.
Yesterday. No, I mean, obviously there was a high water situation that made that a bit of a challenge. We just put our docks in yesterday. And so certainly for us, this is a 4-month build, for us from start to finish. So when we look at when, you know, we need to get the barge out, depending on what water levels are like, we would really like to start as soon as possible in order to meet that time frame and wrap this all up as Scott talked about, this fall.
Okay, thank you.
Jane? Where we go?
I just need some clarification on something. We talked about parking on the east side and the west side of Brewster Park Road. Will it be okay if there's cars parked on the east and of the west side of Brewster Park Road, or are you eliminating the west side?
Well,
Sorry,
I've never parked there other than to park at the spot to check on this temporary ramp.
Okay.
But I would not be parking on the west side of Booster Park anyway, but that doesn't mean people wouldn't do it. To me, the place to park is the east side. You have a fence, you have a shoulder before you're back on the road. The west side doesn't look to me to be the spot to park, but that doesn't mean it's not done. Yeah. Gotcha.
okay, I can tell you that people will park on both sides of
Yep.
that road because
People-
it is a very busy park.
People do a lot of things.
I had a lot of questions, but they've already been addressed through the questions. One thing that I would like to see, and if this through the chair, if the CAO can put this in a report that goes forward, is if we lose campers in Booster Park during this process, I would like to see the municipality compensated 100% for every penny we lose should campers feel that their enjoyment is going to be compromised and therefore they leave early or they don't come at all. We've spent a lot of money getting that park up to where it is, and I don't want us to lose any money because of this.
So everybody's had an opportunity to comment. I think what I'm hearing is that we need a staff report based on John's connection with our services. Go ahead, John.
So through your chair, just to close off what Councillor Lakatos has said, is part of the discussion earlier was looking at alternatives, and one of those was looking at the revenue that was brought in by those overnight sites. It became prohibitively expensive in terms of the idea that the developer would shoulder that full cost because it can be significant. But if it's the matter of putting together an agreement that has compensation, that would be part of that. And again, it would be one of those things that would either push it to a point where it's not viable or something that would be reasonable. But any of those things would be spelled out in an access agreement. And just before, Chair, you put together a resolution or whatever council wishes to do. The only thing I want to just highlight is a couple of things. One is temporary access only. We're not assuming the road, so it's not going to be open forever. No public maintenance obligation is being created because of this. And the other part is that the CEO clerk may execute whatever agreement comes later on. But again, the details, it would come forward in a report if that is council's wish.
Does anyone want to make that motion? Or do you want me to do that? To make a motion to bring a staff report forward with those conditions just that John has outlined? Can I get a seconder? So, I'm not sure what you need for wording, Kristen. That staff bring forth a report in response to the delegation of drain and deal with the items that we've already identified and that John has just spoken to in terms of what was it you just said in terms of insurance and
Through you, Chair, I think if it's council's request and given the timeliness of this, so we would bring back a report with the idea of also an access agreement that we would discuss with the proponent, which laid out all of the considerations that were mentioned here today and anything else that would be there on my list as well. And we would have had discussions with the idea of this coming forward, given that timing is of the essence. I think we're looking at June 2nd, as soon as we can. So obviously the report will come forward. with the idea of a draft access agreement with details, conditions appropriate to what has been discussed, plus other aspects that may come up as part of a legal review. And the idea that that would come forward to council. We've only really got 2 meetings in June, so it would either be the 2nd or the 16th, so.
So the report would be brought forth to the June 2nd meeting.
I believe you tag them in.
Okay, Eric, I see you.
Is this motion on the floor now for discussion? Yeah. So I would just like to make sure as well that like the signage gets into that as well. That this, you know, we have proper signage up because even with the rocks there, people with kayaks, canoes, swimming, they're gonna go in that space. So making sure that there's proper signage up as well. And, you know, I don't mean to circle back to the compensation thing again, but clearly there's gonna be municipal cost here. You know, even getting legal review and coming up with this draft agreement and all the staff time involved. There's a cost, so compensation definitely has to be part of this
Go
request.
ahead, Ron.
Yeah, with this report, John, can we include talking to landowners on both sides? People that run the park should be involved. They run the park. I think people on the other side and up the road, I just think people should be brought in for their comments. For the feel like being heard at least. And I'm for the project. I think I'm excited to see the house go in, but I just think we need everybody on board, everybody to agree on this and feel comfortable with it. And I don't know how you can do that with your report, but I think just my 2 cents. I think people
I
need
think
to.
through you, Chair, Councillor Derry, this is all very important in terms of being able to look at public sentiment, neighbors, concerns, support, if there is some. What I can do is provide a document, a report that would identify the issues. What I can't promise is making water into wine with respect to people being all comfortable and happy with that sort of thing. Notwithstanding that, it is a component to the report that'll will be included.
Fair enough.
Go ahead, Mike.
Is this doable in the next 2.5 weeks, Mr. CAO? And I'm not being critical, but why would you have waited till now to come to us to do this? If you want to be in there in June. I'm looking at Drain Brothers.
Microphone, please. Oh, your microphone.
Well, the logistics were just sort of presented at the end of the winter as far as what the size of the logs were going to be and everything else. And we started this excursion last fall by driving up and down Cook Road and seeing if there were houses that we could entertain that were close to Bowen Island. We've been to the Blairton Road launch, this launch, the municipal launch. We were running out of options as we did our journeys up and down the road. And we decided we would see what would happen with this. So I started to make the phone calls and that's where we're at.
Okay, Jane, I think you had your hand up, did you? Microphone, Jane.
Right, I'm sorry. Okay, so just to clarify, the motion on the floor is for the staff report is only, it is not to proceed. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. Correct?
Yeah, it's not a motion to proceed.
Correct, okay,
It's- Yeah.
just the staff report.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
Is a draft agreement not the expectation of council at this point through this motion? That we see a draft agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through your chair, to look at timeframes and doable, honestly, in keeping with the agenda and timelines, it really is a week. So I will caution that if this is a priority of council and just do that, there may be some things that take a backseat in that, but that would be, the idea would be a report with a draft access agreement with all the things that we've talked about and more, with the idea that going forward on the June 2nd meeting, because again, just making timing there, and I will take this on.
Sorry.
Ron, did you have more? Your microphone was on. Okay. This keeps shutting off. by
I do
the
have
way.
something to say. I think Mike is right. I think we're under the gun and you're coming late. That's how I see it. I mean, we're pushing our CAO to get a report done. You should have been here 2 months ago. That's what I think. Not to us. Not to us. That's where you should
Okay,
have been.
so I think we've got the motion on the floor and it's been seconded. Did you want to comment further, John?
Just on the last thing, it's coming to council as a result of the discussions that we had on site with Scott and others with respect to what were the options. It was a matter of narrowing down options, and this becoming one that, based on those discussions, it was appropriate. So this was started a couple of weeks ago, just in terms of the delegation. So that appreciation for that lag time. I think all other options that were there and being around were slowly being eliminated. We even talked about variations on this particular one a couple of weeks ago, meeting on site with roads, with parks, myself, with Scott and his folks. So again, I can appreciate, it is a bit of a crunch in time, but that said, it's a result of an evolution of discussion.
Thank you, John. Anything further? So there's a motion on the floor for a report and I can't quote it because I can't remember all the details we agreed to. Does anybody need to hear a complete motion? Again, Jane, you want?
No, I don't have a complete one.
The clerk does have a complete motion. If I may, I'll take a stab at it. That staff direct that council, if it's support, I don't want to put words in your mouth, support that a report come back for the June 2nd council meeting, which will outline details to put in a draft access agreement with respect to the logistics of opening up the Booster Park road allowance for the permitting the construction on a temporary basis for the work that's being proposed. Obviously, better language can come forward, but the idea is a report with a draft access agreement attached to that with all the conditions and anything else that were identified today. I'll make sure that's included.
Oh, well, it's not me who's satisfied. Is the clerk satisfied with the motion?
Through the chair to Councillor Lakatos, I'll just have to go back through the discussion and sort out what all of the specifics are. I have some of it written down, but didn't know that we were crafting a motion throughout the discussion, so. Your microphone is off.
I said I moved the motion and Ron seconded it. So I was just checking with Ron that he was okay with it. Okay. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know it was kind of a bit of an interrogation in a sense, but we have to be responsible for the decisions we make as it affects our taxpayers and residents. So thank you for
Thank you, Mayor.
good information. Thank you. And I'm sure John will be in touch with you. Okay, next on the agenda is public input. And I just remind everybody that it's a maximum of 3 minutes. Public input is time set aside on each agenda of each regular meeting to permit anyone in attendance to speak on any issue in the agenda. Public input will be received by council only. Comments or clarification by the public or councillors are permitted. Speakers may not speak disrespectfully of any council member, staff member, or any other person and must not use offensive words or gestures. I'm just going to say that one of the pieces of correspondence that we received and is on the agenda was a request that the clerk read the correspondence. And I'm going to say that that's inappropriate in reviewing section 412 of our procedural bylaw states to permit anyone in attendance to speak. So the clerk will not be reading that correspondence. So anyone else wishes to speak under public input? Can you just sign the paper there, Cindy, please? Thank you.
Your microphones are a challenge tonight. My name is Cynthia Reed. I'm the current president of the Marmacrow Valley Lions, and I'm here speaking on their behalf to address items 11.1 and 11.2 on the agenda for tonight. And I'm asking that council stand by their recorded vote of the council meeting of May 5th regarding the Lions agreement with the municipality of Marmor and Lake and not permit this issue to be brought forth again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good evening, Ruth. Welcome.
Good evening. You guys have pretty well covered everything I got to say, but my name's Ruth Thompson. My husband Don and I, we own the properties at 206 and 220 Booster Park Road. We have lived there for over 27 years, and before that, I was born and raised at 206 Booster Park Road. So when I speak tonight, I'm not speculating. I'm speaking from a lifetime of experience on this road. So let me paint you a picture of a typical day. From Lakeshore Road to the dead end of Booster Park Road, it is already heavily congested all summer long, often reduced to essentially one lane, used as overflow parking along both sides. Visitors park along the fence, many of them sticking out onto the road. Trucks are too long for the spaces, and campers park there as well. Now add to that children jumping out of their cars, excited to get to the park, swimming lessons, sand piles, families crossing the road constantly, tourists driving in and realizing it's a dead end and trying to turn around in our driveway. And then you have boats and trailers coming down the hill to launch. They miss the entrance and they're getting stuck at the end of the road. So for 27 years, my husband has gone out to help these people back up. Now it's in one lane. They'll never be able to do it because it's just that difficult. This is not occasional. This is a daily routine reality in the summer. Now imagine adding large dump trucks to this already situation. You are taking an already congested, chaotic, and introducing heavy equipment, limited visibility, increased noise and distraction, constant movement in a space already shared by pedestrians and children. There are at least 10 children who live on the road year-round, from the bottom of the hill to the top, never mind the many more visiting in the summer. They run to the park, they cross the road, they're just going to the candy store. That proposal puts them all at risk. This is not just a residential road. This is a tourist destination. People book months in advance, pay over $100 a night, come here for peace, quiet, and family time. They support our grocery stores, our gas stations, local businesses, and what will they experience instead? Noise from trucks, dust in the air, constant beeping, and traffic disruption. We have already invested heavily in this park, a new fence, over $80,000 in hydro upgrades. Why? To improve the experience and attract visitors to this town. This proposal risks undoing the investment and progress. Let's not forget the people who live there full time. Seasonal residents staying for months, family who return year after year, property owners who financially support this community, and yet they are being asked to bear the burden of this decision. The plan to dump sand and gravel at the end of the road is deeply concerning. With the prevailing westerly winds off of Crow Lake, that dust and debris will not stay contained. It will blow directly onto nearby properties, mine, affect air quality for breathing, impact our ability to enjoy our homes for the summer. We're not 200 feet away. We're as close as 5 to 10 feet from the dump site. Some people in the park at the fence line are even closer. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is a direct impact on our daily lives. But I have to ask, why has Meg's Landing not been more seriously considered? It already offers more space, deeper water, less congestion, and a greater distance from homes, 200 to 300 feet. It's simply more suitable and less disruptive location. But one other thing I would like to add to make a point for your consideration is there are many properties and cottages built on the islands of this lake. Over the years, those owners have managed to build, maintain, and supply their properties without needing the use of the end of Booster Park Road. So I have to ask, why now and why here? If others have found ways to transport materials and access their properties without creating this level of disruption, then surely there are alternative methods or locations that can be considered. Because what is proposed here is not a small change, it is a significant disruption to residents, visitors, families, and a safety of the entire area. And it raises a very real question. Does this situation justify placing the level of burden on this entire community? In closing, for nearly 3 decades, it has been our place of peace. It's where we raised our family. It's where we gather. It's where we enjoy the lake and the community. And we are simply asking you, please do not take that away from us. Council, this road is already unsafe, already congested, and already heavily used by families and children. Adding industrial traffic will only make it worse. We are asking you, please do not put visitors and our community at risk. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else wish to speak under public input?
I have nothing great to add because it's all been put out there pretty much of everything that's my main concern. Oh, I am Joan Lavera. I manage Booster Park, as you probably all know. Anyways, I have spent the last 3 years trying to make that park, turn it around, clean it up, have it nice, have visitors want to come back. And I think I'm making headway, I think. But anyways, I'd be the last person to stand in anyone's way of building their dream home. But in reality, we start swimming lessons the 1st of July. Those kids get out of those cars on the east side of the road and they run for their swimming lessons. We have kids on bikes constantly. Every day after school right now, they're there. They're come to the candy store. They come to the beach. That's my main concern is the kids and my campers coming, wanting to come back and wanting to be there, which is a big concern. Yeah, that's really all I had to say. That's just my main concern. Those kids on bikes, those kids for their swimming lessons, they're excited. The campers come in, their kids all have bikes. There's 15, 20 kids on bikes. They're just having a blast. But that's what it boils down to me, is the safety of the kids on that road and the cars pulling in and out. And like they say, the boats coming in and out. It's constant traffic up there. And July and August is our busiest months. And I'm hoping to make them very busy. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you all for your input. Can't ask questions. So, oh, yeah, just a minute. Ron's got a question for clarification.
No, Joan, just a question, clarification.
Yeah.
For my memory, the last time I remember, the road would be just packed
Oh, yeah.
sides. Is that still
Well,
the same?
swimming lessons start at 8 a.m. every morning up during the week, at the 1st of July, the first week of July, they start. So you've got 8 to 10 cars at least starting first thing 8 o'clock in the morning, every morning.
And they park on that.
Well,
road.
we're so limited with parking on the inside, right? And the same with campers. Well, dad brings the trailer, mom comes with the kids in the car. So they've got to park on the outside of the fence because we only have room for one vehicle at each campsite.
Right, that's how I remember it too, but.
Yeah, I try to accommodate, like if there's room and there's nobody camping beside you, then yeah, I'd rather see them on the inside of that fence. Absolutely. But if it's a busy weekend,
Yeah.
it's just
usually not.
congested. Yeah,
Okay,
for
Thanks,
parking.
Joan.
thank
Yeah.
you.
No problem.
Yeah, like I said, thanks to everyone for their input. Does anybody else wish to speak under public input? Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, May the 5th, 2026. And the recommendation is that the foregoing minutes of the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mike, second. Ron? Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Staff reports, the updated procedural bylaw. The recommendation is that council accept the updated procedural bylaw report dated May the 19th, 2026, and further that the bylaw 2026-32 being a bylaw to establish the corporation of the municipality of Marmor Lake's rules of procedure for meetings of council and applicable committees be recommended for council approval. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Jane, and second, Eric. Any discussion on that procedural bylaw? Go ahead, Jane.
So reading over page 23 of the clerk's report, I was expecting to see clauses 3 and 4 from motion 2026-180 made at the May 5th meeting included in the updated procedural bylaw. So the paragraphs are that council, my microphone is, the council and all staff shall ensure that the clerk is consulted on all matters proposed to be considered in a closed meeting, recognizing that there may be some limited occasions when the clerk may not be available to provide her expert advice, and that the clerk shall be authorized to consult with independent legal advice should she require expert advice in order to accurately instruct the municipality. And further that the CAO, so should they choose to dismiss the clerk's advice in preparation for future meetings, be required to disclose this choice to council prior to the meeting or meetings in question. I would like to make a friendly amendment to the motion that is on the floor to include clauses 3 and 4 in bylaw 2026-32, and that the bylaw 2026-32 be recommended for council approval as amended.
Thank you, Jane. I'd like to ask Kristen to speak to that motion or to that suggestion, please.
Through the chair to council. I don't think there's an issue with making that friendly amendment as long as the seconder is okay with it. The bylaw is on the agenda for approval tonight, but it could be approved as amended. It's quite clean because that motion is in the report already. We've just heard exactly what it would say. So I don't think there's an issue with that procedurally. I think.
So Jane is moving in the amendment. Is there a seconder for that amendment?
She's suggesting a friendly amendment, so it would be
Oh,
up to
okay.
Councillor Dow if he's comfortable with that.
Well, either way, I think it would be cleaner if we did this as an amendment to the document instead of a friendly. If you're okay with that, let's reset here and start
So then
over.
that would be a motion to amend the main motion by Councillor Lakatos
Yeah.
by adding clauses 3 and 4 of motion 2026-180. And then also adding the words as amended to the end of the main motion. So that's been moved by Councillor
Okay,
Lakatos.
I will second that motion.
Do you know of any other municipality that has such stringent definitions in their bylaws such as that? I don't.
Through the chair to
Don't-
Deputy Mayor
to be honest, I don't
Stevens.
like that.
There are as many procedural bylaws out there as there are municipalities, and some of them are much more specific than that, and many are much less specific than what we already have. I know from conversations with other clerks, it often depends on what's gone on, what the issues sort of the day are in that municipality as to what lands in the procedural bylaw. So a new council might but be working under a procedural bylaw that has been changed quite a number of times by a previous council to try to address some of their issues that may not then translate into issues for the new council. So it certainly happens.
Any other comments? So we're going to vote, are we doing this as a separate an amendment and not a friendly amendment? Is that correct?
Correct. We have a motion to amend the main motion on the floor, which we'll need a vote on first.
Okay. So we vote on the main motion first.
No, we vote on
On
the
the
motion
amendment.
to amend the main
Yeah.
motion.
So, can I call to a vote to, for the amendment? That motion has failed. So on the main motion, on the procedural bylaw, we have a mover and a seconder already. I just have a question, Kristen. The changes on the procedural bylaw that you're presenting, are they limited to the recommendations of the closed meeting investigation? Or are there other amendments that
Through the chair to council. The only changes that have been made are those explained in the report, which were the two clauses identified by the closed meeting investigator as being included in error, so they have been fixed.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the procedural bylaw? So I'll call to a motion, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next is the CAO report on the CAO status update for May 2026. And the recommendation is that council receive the CAO status update May 2026 report dated May the 19th, 2026 for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that report? Jane, and second? Ron? Any discussion? Go ahead, Jane.
Excuse me. There are some items that have been ongoing for a while. To the chair, I'd like the CAO to give us a timeline on items 1 and 2.
Excuse me.
As to when they originally came onto his radar, and how much longer he thinks it's gonna take to get them solved.
Which items again, sorry?
1 and 2.
Okay. John, do you want to speak to that, please?
Of course, thank you. Through Chair to Councilor Lakatos. Thank you for the question. This report itself did not exist in the previous administration. This is something I introduced and council has made suggestions and has changed and evolved. So the idea here is to keep track of not all items, not all work projects, things like that. It is to keep track of highlights, things that are through budgets, through resolutions of council. The idea of how it works is that when it's directed, the source is provided in that second column of either it's a resolution or a decision or a council meeting, some indicator as to when it was introduced. The item itself on the left talks about priority, low, medium, high. It's not to say that I don't look at all of those things, but it's the idea of how I look at prioritizing that. And if council doesn't agree, we would amend that. The idea is that that first table are things that are ongoing, then they get completed. The next month, they all go from the one table to the second, and then the subsequent month they go off. So there are a number of things, if I were to go back, there were things that were there, have migrated and evolved. The ones that are outstanding, with respect to the fire bylaw, that's a complicated issue for a number of reasons. That has to do with the interim fire chief, discussions with the fire chief, looking at other jurisdictions, the discussions around things like shared services, and also bylaw with respect to what's working, what's not working. And also as a result, more recently, that in order to provide council with a comprehensive package of all things, we're educated by our experience last year with respect to fire bans, what works, what doesn't work. We have mutual aid agreements with Limerick and Woolston and things that they do from an administrative standpoint that need to be reconciled. And I want to do that with, in the current regime of the fire chiefs as they're there. There are also some things that have come to light with respect to standby pay and other things that if they aren't necessarily in the bylaw and they need to be in a bylaw. And that's why my hope is to do this sooner than later. So for that first item specifically, control burning bylaw, guidelines, enforcement. That's a package, a comprehensive package. As we have an interim fire chief now, my hope is to work with them as I have with him, work with the other jurisdictions, which I have been doing, and the bylaw enforcement officer to look at a package to come. My hope is to do that fairly soon. With respect to agricultural society agreement, if you notice the date, February 4th, 2025, this is something the clerk has actually reminded me that the specific substance was dealing with fee waivers, where in and of itself had sort of been addressed last year. So I actually keep this going because the idea is that if the Lions agreement is something that would be developed and sustained and something council was comfortable with, that would be the basis for what the Agricultural Society's agreement would be, and also another agreement with the curling club. So if council is comfortable with the Lions Club in the sense that after everything we've been through, I've had recent discussions with the Ag Society as of the end of March as to dates that we have under our legal agreement. They've added a few more dates. I will now be using that template to populate that, and I've had those discussions with the Agricultural Society. Again, my hope is to bring that sooner. The last thing I like is these things to hold over longer than they should. If that's okay with council, if there are any other questions, I can certainly support any of the other items that are on the list.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions on John's report? Mike, you've got your microphone on.
Nope. Just
No?
trying to be able
Okay.
to see.
No, your microphone's on. That's what I was looking at there. Go ahead, Eric.
You kind of loosely touched on it, but in regards to the control of burning bylaw, we had lots of issues last year. You're aware of that. It seems like this is we know this is a big project to rewrite and provide what's needed there. In the interim, until we have that, are you having those discussions with the fire chief and the bylaw officer to look at how better to handle that this year and the ways in which we communicate that as well to the public? We're getting into cottage season again, the end of school, the lake was lit up with bonfires on the weekend, so.
Through your chair to Councillor Dow, excellent questions from both councillors. Yes, we have had those discussions, and that's why it is seen that there's more to this. The reason being that from an enforcement standpoint, looking at long-term rentals or short-term rentals, some of the issues in the north that happen, we need to be more consistent with. We have a mutual aid agreement with Limerick. They will go out, they will charge for a truck and the time and provide that. They charge us. We do not have a comparable bylaw that will then charge that same thing. So effectively, we are paying the result of these things. Those are one of the things that from an bylaw enforcement, and also fire ban that has to be provided with a more well-rounded and comprehensive one. You're absolutely right. Lessons learned from last year. It will not be approached the same way. I take comfort in the fact that the interim fire chief had put on bans when perhaps it was a little bit less persistent before. So that's good, but lessons learned from last year, we won't be putting them on or taking them off for 24-hour windows for whatever purposes. If it needs to have a fire ban on, the ban will be there. But good point in terms of communication.
Go ahead, Eric.
The pothole prevention funding, that fell off of this now because that was over. Do you know what the final number was that we got in terms of funding under that program?
So through your chair to Councillor Dow, I can get that number, but I believe it was the maximum. I think it was 32,000, but I will check with the treasurer on that.
Okay.
And the reason why it fell off is that the funding was done, but also the roads department did a great job of being able to utilize that in short term to meet our what we were allowed in terms of that dollar. But I can provide that dollar figure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Well, go ahead, Ron.
Just a question, through the chair to John. I see the facilities, the drawings and options for the town hall. If you have an update for that, John, or?
So through your chair to Councillor Derry, I don't. We had a meeting. There's a gentleman, a contractor who Jeff Young has made contact. We walked through the building. We talked about 4 different options. He's pulling all that together in terms of timing and costs. So that, like we said, and as direction of council, will be put forward in a report and brought forward with options for council to be comfortable with whatever's being put forward. I know that I have received some correspondence from the public of concerns of any damage to the cultural heritage values of the building, the structure, or any of the the architectural, important aspects of this building, but rest assured, it'll come forward in the next little while.
Thank you. So anything else? So all in favor? That's carried. So next is committee and board reports, Building Inspection Services Board. And the minutes, the foregoing minutes and reports of the committees and boards listed are hereby received for information. So it's the minutes of March 26, 2026. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Ron, second? I get a seconder? Jane, any questions? All in favor? Oh, you have a question, Mike? Go ahead.
For the BISB, Ron, that money that they moved over to their, I don't know what they call it, the one account or whatever, 500 and some thousand. So they're not gonna do it this, yeah, the 2024 reserve of 565,000 to the one fund. Is this, I'm getting confused. What is the one fund? And is that, part of their, reserve that we have? That they're gonna try to invest it? And the other problem I got is who's gonna invest it? I don't understand. I know we keep money there. We keep the money for a whole year of expenses, what they're trying to do. But I don't understand it either. But what is the one fund? Is that over and above the reserve, Ron, of the 1 year?
It's part of the reserve.
It's
So
part of it.
part of the
Okay.
reserves they're investing. The other part they can invest because they're still just tied up and they're using it and still permits going out. and
Okay.
All that kind of stuff. So that's as much as they can invest. So we like to see our money grow so that we invested that much at least anyway, and the rest of it is being used.
Okay, so it's part of the reserve already.
That's right.
Okay.
It's about little more than half the reserves, Mike, up there.
Okay, thanks.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
if I may, Chair, just through you to the Deputy Mayor, part of the discussion was a result of Councillor Derry and Councillor Valakent from Tweed Township looking at the reserves and the idea of any lost opportunities that, well, there is a reserve there of being able to gain interest. The one fund is one that municipalities can participate in. It's safer and it's secure. It provides interest. And the idea is that that will feed into making the organization more financially sustainable.
Can we borrow money? Can we borrow money from the one fund to build roads? At a reasonable interest rate?
I'm sorry, Deputy, to borrow money for which?
Roads. Or bridges, and pay a reasonable interest rate to the BISV. I mean, well, we're only gonna get 2 or 3%. And the one fund, I assume, because it's gonna be in bonds or something like that. So it's not gonna pay a whole bunch, it's gonna just barely keep up with inflation. So I just wondering, we could use it to better advantage if we could. Or I'm being serious.
I don't think that's permitted, Mike.
Oh, isn't it?
Through you, Chair, to the Deputy Mayor, I can ask those questions, but I suspect there is some very significant safeguards on that for that exact purpose. The part of the reason being the fund itself is limited to just making sure that the exposure is low and it's low risk, but has some interest. The other part is because all of this is related to building, the funds are encumbered, even if they are in reserve, because they are to be used for those purposes. But notwithstanding, if you wish me to ask the question, or myself and Councillor Derry, we can get that answer for you.
Because we are a good risk, so just tell them that. Oh, okay. Just curious. I hate to see the money just sitting there and getting 2% a year. We're going backwards.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, John. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence for direction. Bonnie Danes closed meeting investigation report and the recommendation council provide direction to staff. Get a mover and a seconder. Oh, sorry, I need a motion first. Jane?
I would like to make a motion, please. my motion. Whereas the Lions Agreement was passed in an open meeting of council on September 2nd, 2025, during which the municipality of Marmon Lake's procedural bylaw was contravened. Whereas the vote to bring the Lions Agreement to an open meeting for approval was taken in a closed meeting on June 3rd, 2025, that has since been determined to have been an illegal meeting as per the municipality's closed meeting investigator. Whereas this vote was found to have been an illegal vote, whereas during the open meeting where debate was to have taken place on the Lions Agreement, the chair failed to follow the municipality's procedural bylaw, section 9.7, by refusing a member's right to debate prior to the vote. Therefore, be it resolved that motion 2025-34 of September 2nd, 2025, meeting of council to accept the Lions Agreement be rescinded. And further, that the Lions Agreement be brought forward in open session as originally presented in its draft form to be debated prior to its approval at the June 2nd, 2022 regular meeting of council. And I ask for a recorded vote.
So Jane has put a motion on the floor. Can I get a second? One more time, is there a seconder? That motion is defeated. So, does anyone want to make a motion? Go ahead, Ron, to this correspondence.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you again.
For the correspondence is what we're
Yeah,
dealing
just make
with.
a motion to receive it for information.
Can I get a seconder for that motion? Mike, any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Jane.
I would like to thank Bonnie Daines for writing a letter to the municipality and her concerns for this council's lack of support for its own municipality's procedural bylaw.
Anything further? I'll call to a vote. All in favor? That's carried. Next is correspondence, closed meeting from Lori Tannehill, closed meeting investigation report. And again, we need a motion. Someone want to make a motion? Ron,
Receive for information.
can I get a seconder for that motion? Jane? Any discussion on that motion? Jane?
I would like to thank Lori Tannehill for submitting her letter to council. And also I would like to thank her for following up on the closed meeting investigation. And I am embarrassed that this council, again, does not follow its own procedural bylaws.
Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Pro Valley Conservation Authority, municipal brief of April 16th, 2026. And the recommendation is the council accept the brief for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mike, second. Eric, any discussion on that information? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Hastings County Council and the report of April 30th, 2026. And the recommendation is that council accept the report for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mike, second. Eric, any comments or questions on that report? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus news release of May the 12th, 2026. And the recommendation is the council accept the news release for information. And I have a mover and a seconder. Eric and Ron, any comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. Building Inspection and Services Report for April 2026. And the recommendation is the council accept the report for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Go ahead, Eric, second. Can I get a seconder for that? Mike, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Marmor Agricultural Society event permit application for the demolition derby. And the recommendation is the council approve the event permit application submitted by the Marmor Agricultural Society for their demolition derby event to be held at the Marmor Fairgrounds on May 23rd, 2026 from 6 o'clock to 9 p.m. And further that the society be required to provide a special insurance certificate for 5 million liability to staff prior to the event, naming the corporation of the municipality of Marmor Lake as the added insured. And I have a mover and a seconder. Ron, second Mike. Any comments or questions on that application? Go ahead, Eric.
Through the chair to staff, being so close to this event date, has that already been provided to the municipality?
Through chair to Councillor Dow, yes, it has. The insurance? No, I'm sorry, did you ask the insurance?
Yes.
Oh, I
did.
apologize. I missed that completely.
Sorry.
I do not have that. I will follow up with that.
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
Mine keeps flipping off.
Through the chair to Councillor Dow, as far as I know, it has not been provided. The application itself was received months ago, but wasn't paid for until last week. And yes, there's not really much more to say. So I will send a letter of resolution out tomorrow and they'll have a day and a half to get that to us.
Okay, thank you. Jane?
May I have a 5-minute recess to confer with the clerk in private, please? If that's allowable.
Well, it's up to you. She's asking for, to confer with you, so.
And that's fine with me, but it's your meeting, Madam Chair. So if you want to accept a motion to recess.
Is there a motion? Well, Jane has put forward the motion. Can I get a seconder, Eric? Yeah, okay, so 5.
Are we going to call that to a vote?
Oh, sorry. All in favor of a 5-minute recess? Fine. That's carried.